the College Football Playoff Selection Committee is here to maintain the established order of college football. Despite the optimism that the expanded 12-team format might create more parity, it's clear that the SEC and Big Ten continue to dominate the landscape. These two conferences are still at the top, and even though other teams have shown flashes of potential, the playoff field is likely to be stacked with familiar blue bloods. We're in for some dramatic moments this weekend, but let's not kid ourselves. While teams like Clemson, SMU, and the Pac-12 contenders are fighting for a shot at the playoffs, the reality is that the SEC and Big Ten always seem to get the benefit of the doubt. Just look at the current playoff picture. Sitting 9-3, Alabama is in a prime position to make it in. Despite losses to Vanderbilt and one of the worst Oklahoma teams in recent memory, the Crimson Tide are still being considered for a playoff spot, and for a reason. Alabama's strength of schedule, with a 3-1 record against ranked teams, has kept them in the conversation. But let's not ignore the glaring issues with this team. Their 2 bad losses are worse than some teams being left out of the discussion. So why does Alabama continue to get the benefit of the doubt? The committee loves the name, the legacy, and the sheer weight of the program. The history of Alabama means they're always going to be in the mix, no matter how imperfect their resume might be. In contrast, teams like Miami, sitting at 9-3, are left in the shadows. Even with a solid record, Miami can't seem to catch a break because they don't carry the same prestige as Alabama. Seeing the ACC and Big 12 fighting for relevance in this year's rankings is also enjoyable. With 4 ranked teams, the ACC is looking at possibly just one team in the playoff picture, which feels unfair. Teams like Syracuse and Georgia Tech gave top-ranked teams a run for their money, yet the ACC's best don't have the same clout as the SEC and Big Ten teams. Clemson's late-season loss to South Carolina sealed the fate for the Tigers, but they'll still be in the conversation if they beat SMU for the ACC title. Meanwhile, the Big 12, once considered a powerhouse, is now fighting for scraps. Despite strong seasons from teams like BYU and Texas, the conference doesn't seem to have the same respect as the SEC or Big Ten. The committee is not taking the Big 12 seriously enough, and their chances of securing a spot in the playoffs are slim to none. The fact that BYU, with a 10-2 record and some solid wins, is still outside the top 18 says it all. Then, there's the Big Ten, where Indiana is sitting pretty in the playoff picture with an 11-1 record despite having a weak schedule. The Hoosiers haven't proven themselves in any real way, but their placement in a Power 5 conference seems to be enough to secure them a playoff spot. It's the same story with teams like Michigan and Ohio State. They've had strong seasons, but their conference schedule significantly affects their ranking. Ohio State is on the verge of a huge playoff push, and even with a loss to Michigan, they will still have a strong case to make the playoffs. When the playoff expanded to 12 teams, the idea was to give more teams a chance to open up the field and create more excitement. But as we're seeing this season, it's just made the path more transparent for the Blue Bloods. The SEC and Big Ten continue to dominate, while teams from other conferences are left clawing for the scraps. This may be a reality check for those who thought expansion would lead to a more egalitarian playoff system. Alabama's frustratingly underwhelming season, with a roster full of talent that hasn't lived up to expectations, is still on the verge of making the playoffs. That's a testament to the weight of their brand and the legacy they've built. However, for conferences like the ACC and Big 12, this year may be the final nail in the coffin. If Alabama, despite all their struggles, sneaks into the playoff, it will further solidify the notion that the Power 2, the SEC and Big Ten, are the ones who truly control the playoff picture. As we move closer to the end of the regular season, the ACC and Big 12 must accept that their chances of getting multiple teams into the playoffs are slim. The Blue Bloods are still the ones who dominate the narrative, and no amount of expansion will change that. For now, it's business as usual, with the SEC and Big Ten continuing to call the shots in college football.